Happy Memorial Day from the Loose and Groovy Baseball Show. It's May 26th and the 30th edition of Loose and Groovy Baseball Show. Today's going to be a bit of a quicker episode, but nonetheless a very good one. Parker, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? Just got off a weekend where you went to a Chicago White Sox game. How was it?
Yeah, Southside represent. Took two or three from the Rangers, so I mean, can't complain. Almost swept them actually too. So, I was at the Saturday game. They won 10-5. I think I heard it was the best offensive game from the White Sox this season. So I guess I lucked out going to that one. Super fun game, perfect weather in Chicago. Lots of fans there too, which was really cool. Yeah, you kind of saw production from everywhere on the field. I was a little bummed. Cannon did not end up getting the start. I was kind of going into it expecting it, but Bryce Wilson ended up getting the ball, which was fine.
Yeah.
But other than that, offense looked great. I was talking to my girlfriend. I went with her after the game or to the game, and I was just saying how the at-bats the White Sox were taking were really good. And like it was
hmm
Jack Leiter on the mound for the Rangers, and it was just I was very impressed. They didn't really go down 0-2 a lot and just kind of give up. They were battling, had really good at bats, and they definitely made Leiter work for it. But I was also saying, I think just the identity of the White Sox this year, or at least they're starting to get an identity, I would
hmm
say. There's just a little bit more buy-in this year. You can tell the guys are kind of they just want to be there a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's a lot better of a vibe than what because I think I went to two games last year, and this is my first one going this year, and it was just really good, and I really enjoyed it. And you could tell the guys were just having fun out there, which was awesome to see. And it was overall a really good weekend. They won the first two, and then they almost won. They almost swept yesterday.
hmm
But had I think a couple defensive blunders in the
Yeah.
ninth or eighth, whatever. But either way, it was a great weekend, and we just saw each other for the first time this weekend. So,
hmm
how was your weekend? I know you weren't up to much, but watch some Tigers. Just kind of hang out.
Yeah. It was a lot of baseball. Um, and then yeah, I started my internship up, so I'm just working on stuff with that, but nothing nearly as interesting as you guys. And then Kevin, who we had in the episode not too long ago, talking about Milwaukee. He's going to a game today. He's actually there right now,
Yep,
watching Chad Patrick and Garrett Crochet duel it out. So
quite the battle
um,
right there.
next week, I promise I'll have something more exciting to talk about with me. But I do have one question. So you seem pretty impressed about the team and like the approach the team has this year. Was there any like player that kind of impressed you, like seeing in person in particular?
Um, I would go. I would say Lenine Sosa has been a bit of a surprise. And yes, in person, but also the whole year. We were making, or I made fun of him to you last year at some point because we always think there's like this NPC middle infielder named Sosa
Hmm?
on like every team. And the White Sox had him last year, and I thought I didn't really think much of him. And he's not having like a fantastic year this year, but he really, I think the past couple series, he's been really getting going with the bat. And he survived a lot of the kind of call ups and send downs. Like Brooks Baldwin got sent down. I'm sure you saw Andrew Vaughn got sent down. Elko
Hmm.
went back down, and he's kind of just been able to hang on to his spot in the lineup, and it's well deserved. And he's been, I feel like, one of the brighter spots on the offense. I feel like an easy option would also be Miguel Vargas, because I think there's just a lot more expectation with him, and like starting to finally see him hit the ball well has been really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lenyn Sosa, a guy you're never really going to hear about, but somebody he had a bases clearing double in the sixth inning, and that was three
Okay.
of the six we scored in that game. He's just been having really good ABs. Every game, I feel like I look and he has a multi-hit game. He's just been productive, and it's been pretty cool to see. So I think I'd go with Sosa.
Yeah, I like that. I'm looking at stats right now. Batting 283. He's got a hitting streak that's like it's only showing me 6 games, but he's got hit in all those games, a couple multi-hit games, above average, OPS plus.
Yeah.
Um, that's big. You
Give
guys
me
still got another like 3 years of control after this year, I believe. So
yeah, yeah.
something's clicking.
I hope he could find a solid spot. I mean, he has for like a year now, I guess, or
Hmm.
so. I would also say Mydroth. Mydroth was really fun to watch in
Yes.
person. I think he's up to an 11 or 12 game hitting streak now, which is awesome. OPS is nearly at the 800s. He's batting over 300. He's been
Yeah.
really, really fun to watch. Really good, really fun guy to watch take an AB too. Not going to strike out a lot. Gets on base really at a really high
hmm
clip. So he's another one that was fun to finally see in person. I didn't get to see Edgar Caro. That was the other one I was kind of bummed about.
Yeah.
Dice got the start behind the dish, but Either way, still really fun day at the ballpark, and that's always what we're shooting for.
Mhm.
So yeah, let's get into our standings. This has kind of become a staple of these episodes now, kind of talking about all of the standings across the league and kind of just general takeaways and discussion about, what's been in baseball for the past, week or two, depending on what the time is between these two episodes. So I will get us going in the American League. I think I'm just going to go through all the divisions and then I'll throw it over to you if you have anything immediately that you want to say, and then
Mhm.
I can kind of just piggyback off of you. So, in the AL Central, the Tigers are still sitting atop. They're 34 and 20. Then you have the Guardians and Twins and Royals, all with 29 wins. Looks like the Guardians and Twins are tied for second with 23 losses, and the Royals have 25 losses. So they're sitting in fourth. Four games back for the Guardians and Twins, five for the Royals. And then the White Sox are 17 and 36. Then you have in the AL East, the Yankees are starting to pull away for sure. 32 and 20, two games back behind the Tigers, or a game and a half, either way. Then you got the Rays in second place right now, 26 and 26 at the 500 mark. Boston fell below 500 this past weekend. They're 27 and 28, followed by Toronto, who's 25 and 27, and then Baltimore is 18 and 34, 14 games back. Then in the AL West to finish it up, the Mariners still hold on to first place, even after dropping 3 or 4 to Houston over Memorial Day weekend. Houston, like I just said, is 28 and 25 now. They're starting to find their rhythm. They're in second. The Rangers are now two games below 500 after that series with the White Sox. Four games back. The Angels have been on quite the heater since we last talked and
Mhm.
kind of brought them up. They're 25 and 27, just two games below 500. They've resurged again now and are kind of right back in it. And then the A's, they were on a huge skid. They did end it against Philadelphia the other night. They are 23 and 31, seven games back.
Okay. Well, I do have one question that I have for you that I'm still trying to decide my answer to, but my question is with the AL East. So this is a different AL East than we've seen in the past. Usually it's like the most competitive, like just a slugfest between the top four teams. My question to you is there gonna be like, let's say I ask you this 2 months from now, or like a month before the season ends, do you think there's gonna be a divisional race in the AL East? I know it's easy to say no right now because the Yankees seem to be running away with it. They have a 6 game lead over the next team, and it's the Rays. There's just a lot of middling with the Rays, Red Sox, and Blue Jays right now, and then we know how the Orioles season is going. They're pretty much out of it. I mean,
Yeah, they
14
are.
games is almost impossible to make up. But is there going to be a race this year, do you think?
Yes, I think there will be. Yankees have won eight of their last 10. Two of those just came against the Rockies. I think the Subway Series would be in that mix as
Hmm.
well. I think we're catching this at a very interesting period where the Yankees are the only hot team in this division, and I would say everybody else is kind of faltering.
Yeah.
Um, like last week, the Rays were not in second place, and it's very close between those middle teams. But I think there will be. I only really see that with the Red Sox. I think it kind of depends on the Red Sox and what they do the rest of the year. I don't really. If there is a race, I don't see it being between the Yankees and then like the Blue Jays or the Rays.
Mhm.
I don't think those teams are gonna make a big push in
Yeah.
the end. If anything, it'll be Boston kind of giving Yankees a run for their money in the East. But even then, I would say more likely than not, it will be the Yankees that kind of come away with this thing. Boston still just kind of worries me. And I'm not so necessarily worried that they're not going to find their footing and get in the playoffs, but it might just be a little too late by the time that they do. And Yankees might just be too far away. I mean, 6.5 games already. And again, it's late May, so still a
Yeah.
ton of time. But Yankees have just kind of been steady going and they keep,
Mhm.
increasing their win total and getting, that win percentage higher and higher. And Boston has not really shown that they can, you know, get away from these other teams in the AL East and start to really solidify themselves as a contender. So I would probably say I think it will be a Yankees kind of, just a firm grasp on this division the rest of the year. But I wouldn't be surprised if Boston ends up clawing their way back here.
Yeah, this Yankees team, I don't know. They've been a very pleasant surprise to me. They've had just a lot of guys step up on the pitching side. And you can first of all just look at Max Fried, and that's like the easiest guy to point to, but he has carried this pitching load since Garrett Cole went down. and then behind that, Carlos Rodon, I looked at his, there was like this graphic that came up and it was lowest batting average against. He has a 161 batting average against. The next highest guy was like 190 or something. He has a 2.88 ERA, and it should honestly be a lot lower than that considering like the batting average against. He just walks too many guys. That's the only problem he has right now. But you just have guys stepping up, like Will Warren at a 409, 50 innings. When you have this offense that leads the league by a decent amount in OPS too, in like the mid 800s,
Yeah.
having a three starter with a 4 ERA, like that's totally gonna do it. And his numbers back it up, like 3-2 record, Rodon 6-3, 7-0 for Max Fried. I just think it's gonna be so tough to narrow this gap, and it's honestly been kind of disappointing to me because this is always like the fun division to keep up with.
Mm,
But I totally agree. The Rays and Blue Jays, I think there needs to be massive improvements for them to be considered contenders in this division.
yeah.
And then the Red Sox they just need to figure more stuff out. And yeah, they worry me a lot.
I
I think they have a chance to make the playoffs, all three of those teams, like a
yeah.
chance, but in terms of the division, it's hard to go against the Yankees.
I almost feel like the Yankees are like this might sound crazy, but are they like a little underrated right now as one of the powerhouses in the MLB? Like I think just going through the lineup and the rotation even too now where you got probably the AL MVP and Aaron
Mhm.
Judge. I mean, that's already a great start. But then Goldschmidt, I think, is still one of the more underrated offseason pickups, one of the
Yeah.
most underrated hitters this year. He's filled in, I mean, hard to say filled in the Soto void or whatever, but like for what they got him for and like what he's like what they were kind of expecting, I think he's exceeded that. And he's been an excellent, excellent hitter.
Mhm.
Cody Bellinger's also been starting to heat up a little bit and find his rhythm. And then you could point to like a lot of other guys in this lineup where Austin Wells has been good. You have why am I blanking at? Who's the young Ben Rice? Ben Rice.
Penrith, yeah.
Yeah, he's been doing really
Amazing.
good.
Still good,
Dominguez
yeah.
has shown spurts where, you see that kind of star potential in him. Like top down, this lineup is pretty solid, and they don't even have like, Jazz Chisholm isn't even playing right now
Mhm.
too. And then like, you look at the bullpen too, and like Luke Weaver's still doing Luke Weaver stuff. Devin Williams is there. He's been starting to find it, I think, a little bit more. Obviously, he had a pretty rough start, but in the postseason, there's not really many other arms you're gonna want to turn to other than Devin Williams. Like I don't know. I just think, and then like you said, with Freed, Rodon, Luis Hill's not even healthy right now. Um, and I just feel like we're forgetting is a team that was in the World Series last year, maybe, and made it out of the AL. And the AL looks a little different this year, but
Yeah.
I think the Yankees should be considered like one of the top threats in this league for sure. And I feel like they may be like a little under-respected right now. I don't know. Do you have anything on that?
I completely agree. And part of it's like me, like I'm even still in my head, there's that maybe it's just the Yankee bias, but like I definitely think they deserve more respect than even I'm giving them and fans are giving them. But like ever since the first game, that first series when they played Milwaukee and just hit like they scored like 10 runs a game, it
Yeah.
seemed like their OPS has been at least like 815 from then till now. Like they have an 821 team OPS right now. This far into the season, that's absurd. And like all the guys that you named, you just have guys stepping up. And to me, a lot of it seems sustainable. So like I don't see this
Yeah.
falling off. And even if some of these guys it's not sustainable, like you mentioned, Jazz Chisholm, he'll be back and he'll be producing. So it's looking very good for them, especially on the offensive side.
Yep.
And I guess like pitching's my only worry, but like they've held it together, and with this offense, it doesn't matter. So
Right. Right.
very fun race. Um, yeah, definitely.
All right, you want to get us going on the National League?
Yes, let's do it. So, get us started with the NL East. We had the Red Hot Phillies,
Mm,
who are leading. They're 9-1 their last 10. They just had was that a 10 game heater, 10 game winning streak?
yes, I think it was 10. Yep.
They're playing amazing. We have the Mets in second place, who've fallen off a little bit, but they're still winners of their last two. They're 2 games back. And then the Braves, 8.5 games back. There was a time where the Phillies and Mets were kind of playing 500 ball, and the Braves were starting to creep, but now it's looking more concerning for the Braves in terms of that divisional race. They're 8.5 back. And then we got the Nationals 10 games back, and the Marlins, who are 12. Moving into the NL Central, we have the Cubs in first place with the Cardinals creeping up and 2 games behind. And then 6.5 games behind, we have the Reds in Milwaukee. And then 13.5 games back, we have the Pirates, unfortunately. And then looking at the NL West, who wouldn't know? It's the Dodgers in first place. Then we have the Giants in second, only a game back. Padres in third, 2 games back. And then the Diamondbacks, 6 games back. They've been losers of their last five, and then they have the Rockies, who are 23 games back. And that makes up the National League with a little cherry on top for the Rockies.
Um, I'll start with the Acuna coming back and homering on the first pitch was a really, really cool thing to
Yes.
see. I just like, he's been out of the game for like, I guess a
Hmm.
year now or whatever. And even before that, he was still struggling to stay on the field. So seeing him back and healthy and, a 467-foot home run, I think is what it was super, super fun. So happy that he's back in baseball. I was watching the Pirates Brewers game. I don't know if it was game three or four, or if they just played a three-game set. The O'Neal Cruz home run, the
Oh
hardest hit
boy.
ball in the Statcast era, that was insane to watch that live. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And I did want to actually bring him up too, because I feel like I don't know if he's playing above, like punching above his weight, I guess you could say a little bit right now, but he's having a really solid season
Mhm.
out in center. Um, He's already got one WAR, a 1.1. He's got 18 stolen bases, 362 on base, 491 slug, and 853 OPS with 136 OPS plus. And that's with 11 home runs. So I think the stolen bases have been a surprise. Yeah, he stole 22 last year, and he's already got 18. So he's definitely on pace to break that.
Yeah.
Um, but he's definitely been just one of the bright spots on this Pirates team. And I don't know if this is like maybe like the peak of what O'Neal Cruz could be in
Hmm.
terms of like his potential, like kind of a 25, 30 home run guy, and then maybe the steals now too, where he steals like
Yeah.
30, 40 in a season. But hopefully the center field defense keeps getting better and he can kind of be a staple out there for them. But yeah, just he's a really fun player to watch. So I hope he keeps performing well. And then
Real quick,
yeah.
I want to talk a little more about him. But last year, 22 stolen bases, one caught stealing. This year, leading, like you said, in stolen bases with 18 and only one caught stealing again. So
Mm,
super efficient, which tells me that that is sustainable and he's going to keep stealing those bases as long as he's not getting caught.
hmm
Then me and Kev were watching game one.
hmm
That was the first day that you were gone, but it was off Freddie Peralta. Peralta and Skeens were dueling. There was no runs scored yet. And O'Neal Cruz hit a ball 117.9 off the bat for a home run, dead center, just killed it. So fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I looked and that was the fastest, tied for Otani this year, the fastest off the bat. And I thought 117.9 was just absurd.
Yeah.
And what was this one? What would you say 122 point something?
122.9.
Like absurd even more. Like seeing that 120
I
get past is
when I
nuts.
was sitting there, I saw it come across the ticker, and I was trying to remember like what's a super hard hit ball in baseball because I was like that doesn't seem normal, like 122. And then I
Yeah.
was like checking, and I think he broke his own hard hit ball record. It was like 122.4, which wasn't a home run, but that was just
Yeah.
he had the record. I think the hardest hit home run was a Giancarlo Stanton home run. It was like 121 something. So that gives you perspective too as to what the power that O'Neal Cruz has, a full tick above
Yeah.
what Stan is hitting the ball out of. So yeah, he's a freak out there. Diamondbacks, 26 and 27, just lost a series to St. Louis, who they've been playing, like one of the better teams. And we did touch on them last week a bit, but I wanted to bring them up because they're kind of getting choked out in this NL West right now.
Yeah.
The Giants are still hanging on. The Padres have been slumping a bit, but they're still only 2 games back. Like you can't really count them out. But the Diamondbacks are starting to get to the point where it's really a three-horse race and they're not really included in that. And they might be more looking at a wild card spot.
Mhm.
The pitching, I think it's just it has to get going or they have to be active at the deadline. Like I don't know what it's gonna take for the Diamondbacks to, change what happened last
Mhm.
year, but it seems like it's a very similar pattern where they just are not getting off to a good start, and it's not anything to do with the offense. It's just the pitching, and that's the starting rotation and the bullpen that's
Yeah.
struggling. So. I mean, I think there is still a chance with that offense that they can
Mhm.
keep contending, but do you have any thoughts on them right now where they stand?
I I do think they're honestly pretty lucky recently that they're even 6 games because six
Mm,
game is definitely within reach. However, still I think it's the Dodgers all the way. Like I've always said that.
yeah,
But they're lucky that the Padres, the Giants, and the Dodgers have lost two in a row. Padres were on that horrible skid we know of. And then the Giants have just kind of been playing 500 baseball since that really hot start at the beginning of the season. So they could be looking at this like 10 game back or even like 8.5 back like the Braves. But if they don't pick it up soon, one of these teams is going to surge ahead and have that long 7,
yeah,
8, 9 game winning streak. And the Diamondbacks are going to be looking at 10 games back, and it's going to be even more bleak. So I definitely think, like, I agree with you. I think playoffs is the best opportunity, and I really do think that this team is going to make the playoffs, but their bullpen needs massive improvements. Um, and yeah, their starting pitching, it's just the same story as last year, and it's like we've talked about, it's similar to the Rangers waiting for their hitting. It's these Diamondbacks, they have the names like Zach Gallen,
yeah.
like he was throwing five like perfect innings the other day, and then he just runs into one inning, he gives up 4 earned runs. So it's just those they're giving out these big innings and it's just these crooked numbers. I don't know. It's a lot needs to happen with the pitching for them to be contenders. And in this division, I think it's getting too late.
Yeah, and we know how crowded this NL wildcard race is going to be.
Mhm.
'Cause you're only going to get one winner out of each division. So the Mets are going to be right up there. I wouldn't count the Braves out yet, obviously. Then in the Central's normally a division where it's like not there's not usually two teams that make it out, but now all of a sudden you have the Cardinals, kind of coming out of nowhere and proving to be a viable team. And I wouldn't count out the Brewers yet either. And maybe you can make a case for the Reds. And then of course the NL West. I mean there might be a world where all three teams there's four playoff teams out of the West.
Yeah.
So yeah, they definitely have to start getting going. I mean, these other teams are starting to show their colors and how talented they are and just playing good baseball. And I haven't
Mhm.
seen that from the Diamondbacks yet. So hopefully they can start getting the ball rolling on that. Do you have anything else, or should we move on to our award check-in?
I do not. Let's get into the awards.
All right. We can bring up our predictions from the start of the year. Do you want to
Mhm.
start with what you had?
Yeah, we can go kind of quick with this.
Okay.
We can start off with the MVP. So I had AL MVP Bobby Witt and NL
Okay.
MVP at Cal Tucker, if you want to give yours now.
Yeah, so I also had Bobby Witt Jr., and then in the NL, I had Ohtani.
Okay, so how are we feeling about each of these guys? Yeah, if you want to start with your Otani, Bobby Witt agenda.
Yeah, so Ohtani I feel good about, which is crazy to say too, because I think he's gonna pitch at some point this year. I
Yeah.
don't There's not really a lot of updates coming out about that, I feel like, or what the timeline is. I obviously don't think they're really gonna rush it out. There's no reason to. But I think he's on pace and it's so weird. I never check in on Shohei Ohtani because I always just assume he's
Yeah.
playing really good. But let's take a look at it. So right now he's got a 295 batting average. That's almost 400 on base, 638 slug, and it's good for a 1.025 OPS. That's with 18 home runs, which is I think tied for the MLB lead right now with Judge and Schwarber up there at the top.
Mhm.
And then he's also got 11 stolen bases this year too. So Otani seems like he's doing Otani things so far. I'm still feeling pretty confident about that. I think like Tatis, Carroll, Tucker are some of the other guys that are getting thrown around quite a bit. I've seen PCA's name get brought up quite a bit too now, with the WAR especially. But I would say Otani, I'm still feeling pretty good about that. AL, I think I'm just going to surrender to Aaron Judge. I mean,
Yeah.
this is his award to lose at this point. He'll have to have quite a fall off to not win MVP in the AL. So, yeah,
Yeah, I first of all with NL, if Otani throws a pitch, which he's most likely to, I just saw he was throwing a bullpen, but they don't want to rush him, which I totally understand. Like I get you want to get him playoff ready, but you can wait so long to kind of ease him into this.
yeah,
But throws a pitch at all this season, 100% MVP. Like it'd be so hard to knock him off his pedestal.
right.
Like his hitting is so consistent. He hardly has like when do you like we see these stretches with Soto and even Judge last year at the start of the season where they had these bad stretches. You don't see that hardly ever with Ohtani. That's just what makes him even more special than everybody else. So I would agree. I think Ohtani's the kind of runaway here. And then the AL, I think it's going to be closer, but I agree. I don't mean to make this not interesting at all, but like with Judge, I would like to see a stat on like in his next what like 40 or 50 at bats if he could go over and still
Yeah,
how many hitless plate appearances can he have where he remains above a 1 dot OPS? Like
right.
it's like 1.25 or something right now. So like he can afford like a bad stretch, which I don't even see coming, but he can afford it and still be the best hitter in the league because he's got such a wide margin right now. And his defense, I think it's gotten better this year. I'm not 100%. I know his WAR is really high, but that could just be the hitting.
Well, it would make sense, I feel like, because he's playing in right. It's probably a little easier than center because that's what he did
Yep.
last year. So maybe that's why. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, most likely. So I
And
think those two are kind of the the favorites right now, and I don't see much changing unless they get injured.
I wanted to check in on Bobby Witt Jr. Almost 3 WAR, B WAR right now. 852 OPS. He's been good, like no doubt about it. I think he's lost a bit of the power so far here. The
Yeah.
slugging is just not as high as it was last year. He's slapping a lot of doubles, but home runs he's only hit 5 so far. So I think that's you're seeing a bit of a decline in that. He's at 19 stolen bases too, though. So he's definitely on track to I maybe like a 20-40 season, something like that is what it's looking like, or like a 40-40 with doubles, because he's already at 20 for that. So still definitely putting in a great year, but yeah, like we said, I don't think it's going to be anything to touch Aaron Judge. Okay, well, we can move on to Rookie of the Year then. For me in the American League, originally, if you listen to that episode, I was on Jacob Wilson, and then we both had Jacob Wilson, so I switched over to Jackson Jobe. I'll stand by that I picked Jobe. And then National League, I had Dylan Cruz.
I also had Jacob Wilson, and I actually stayed. Sorry, one sec. Computer's bugging on me right now, but I stayed with him, and then Dylan Cruz, who I wish I did not stay with. That is not looking good. The Wilson agenda is looking very, very good. Let me just, if you want to start talking, let me just pull up his Savant real quick
Yeah,
because I think it's
so
pretty impressive.
looking at the American League, the general consensus right now is it Jacob Wilson's going to run away with it.
Mhm.
He's playing like a pro, I feel like is the only way to say it. Super high batting average, really good ABs. I don't think he's walking a lot still, but like it doesn't really matter because his bat to ball is just really good. I think
Yeah,
he's got 6 home runs now too. Like I don't have the stats sitting in front of me, but just from, watching him and hearing
yeah.
like I think there's not really going to be another threat in the AL. And in terms of like betting odds, it goes Jason Dominguez and then Will Warren. Christian Campbell's really fallen off a cliff, so I don't really think he's going to be able to claw his way back up. I think it is going to end up being Jacob Wilson here.
Mhm.
And then looking at the National League, completely, I mean, and I even remember when we were looking at it, I feel like it was really wide open, and it still is super wide open right now. There's there's 4 guys that have all pretty similar odds, and I feel like it's a pretty fair shot for any of these guys. You have 2 Braves with AJ Smith-Shawver and Drake Baldwin. If anything, I'd say Drake Baldwin would be my pick now. Should look at his numbers if you haven't yet. Augustine Ramirez is a Marlins catcher who got called up this year. He's looked great. And then Logan Henderson on the Brewers, very sneaky guy, but I think he's made
Great.
4 starts now in the
Mhm.
MLB. He's been really good so far too. And then there's a big drop off in the odds after that with some like inconsistent guys who aren't performing so well. Bubba Chandler's on here and he hasn't even been called up yet, which is pretty funny. But yeah, so I guess I feel like we're both kind of on the same page with the AL and Jacob Wilson.
Yeah.
What are you kind of thinking about in the NL with some of these guys?
Well, real quick, I want to go through Jacob Wilson,
Okay.
96 percentile in expected batting average, 312. Squared up percentage, 99 percentile. Whip percentage, 99. K percentage, the best, 100th percentile at 5.1%.
Wow.
This is going to be so fun to watch if you're Ace fans. You have this guy for another 5 years after this year. This is just going to be like this is prime, like every at bat you want to watch, like Luis Arias plus the defense and plus some more speed. Like this is this is gonna be so fun to keep up with this guy's career because I feel like his floor is. I know it's easy to say when he's batting 350, but I think his floor is so high that it's just gonna be a fun guy to watch. And
Absolutely.
then on the National League side, I think I agree that the Braves guys are gonna kind of settle to the top. However, I don't think I see Baldwin winning it. I know he's got crazy numbers right now. He's got a 921 OPS with a 155 OPS plus. But the main problem, I think, is the runway. Like Sean Murphy's an amazing player, and we've kind of seen it already with Drake Baldwin only having 32 games, 97 at bats. The counting stats are going to be hard to be there. He's not going to play much because Sean Murphy's just so good. They might just flip off every day, or um, it's very unfortunate in terms of the DH because you have Marcell Ozuna who's still like raking, but like you don't even have that outlet to play like one of these guys and have those guys playing every day. So 5 home runs, 15 RBIs. It's going to be hard to get those counting stats up. So I think Smith Shawver. But I will say Logan Henderson has been a very pleasant surprise. I know he had another good start yesterday. And then Sung Kim. I know you're a big Sung Kim believer, but I think that'll be kind of a tough stretch, especially with a little bit of a late start.
Even like AJ Smith-Shawver, he's only thrown 41 innings so far. So like realistically, is he gonna get up to like 120 maybe, 130, which would probably be enough to win it, but it's kind of a similar scenario where it might be like a time thing. Let me pull up Agustin Ramirez because I think he's played 28 games. Who else is catching in Miami right now? I think there's one other guy he's splitting time with. He already has 6 home runs though in that time. Only
Hmm
12 RBIs, 812 OPS. So it's kind of like I don't know if I want to call it like a weak race in the NL for Rookie of the Year, but it might just be a case of there's not a clear front runner that's dominating in the MLB yet and not getting a consistent runway, like you said, which is pretty interesting. Um, I like so do you think your pick would be AJ Smith-Shawver though? Is that what you said?
I do. I think 120 is even. I think he's gonna pitch more than that.
Okay.
I because he got a late start, right? He
Yeah.
started not too late. I mean, he still got 41 innings, but like the league leaders in innings have 70 right now. So I think they're going to rely on him a lot because they need him on the pitching side. He's been amazing. I think he'll get up to like 140, 150, which is like plenty for a rookie of the year. I know Skeens didn't have much last year, but he's also pitched to a 199, so that's kind of a tough comparison to make. But yeah, I think this is Smith Shawver, but honestly, like I think one of these guys from the bottom could jump up to the top, like Dalton Rushing, or even like Dylan Cruz could go on a really hot streak,
Yeah.
because he's been great in the minors and in college ball. So I think this is the most wide open race there could be, honestly.
Yeah, I don't even know who I would go for. Like, I think Logan Henderson's a fun pick. He's only thrown 21 innings, but so far those have been really strong innings. But I like what you're talking about with like
Mhm.
a Dalton Rushing getting hot. I think that's very possible. Jordan Lawler, even I think. I know he just got called up recently. I haven't checked in on him yet, but he's been up in the bigs before and kind of been just crushing AAA for a long time. And like a Dylan Cruz too, like you said, like in our original pick where he's been off to a pretty slow start, and he could be another guy that has just a really strong second half. So definitely really hard to say in the NL right now, where it could just be all down to that second half stretch, and like we see a clear front runner. But it makes it pretty exciting,
Yeah.
for sure. Do you have anything else before we go on to the Cy Young?
No, you can get started with your picks for the Cy Young if you want.
All right, I had Scooble coming out of the AL, and then Skeens out of the National League.
So I had Corbin Burns on the NL, which I don't feel terrible about, but I tried to get Q in the AL and go away from my homegrown Tarek Skubal. And I went Framber Valdez, which
Mm,
not looking too hot right now.
yeah,
Um,
so I mean, do
rough.
you?
I don't know what I was thinking, honestly.
I mean, Framber's been good.
Yeah, I was just trying to be different though, and I don't know.
I'm trying to remember what your rationale was. Maybe it was just like the innings and the dependability, and that's what you were kind of banking on, which is still fair. And it's weird to see him. I'm sure you're looking at the bet MGM list. He's not even in the top 10 in like
Um,
odds. And I think he just lowered his ERA from a really good start against the Mariners last weekend. So it might like I would put him above like a Pablo Lopez probably at least. But yeah, I to me it seems like I mean, and it's probably recency bias with the start Scoobel just had over the weekend. Like one of the best starts probably in the past couple of years. I think you'd agree with that.
Yes, 100%.
But like, is he just the best pitcher in the base in baseball right now? Like, it's going even like dating back to last year, like that
Yeah.
stretch of time. Like, I don't think there's been anybody as dominant as he has been, and I think you can definitely speak into that. You've watched probably all of his
Yeah.
starts.
You can date back to the end of the 2023 season when he came back from the injury and pitched to a low 2 ERA. Like he's been insane. Yesterday, 9 innings, 2 hits, no walks. He never walks anybody, 13 strikeouts. And the most crazy part, I was talking to my brother about this. I'll give you these three scenarios, these three things that happen, these situations, and you tell me, rank them by most impressive. So,
Okay.
first of all, 103 miles per hour, I guess 102.6, but they rounded it up for the 94th pitch of the game. Second most impressive, or I'm not, no order particular,
Yeah.
but next thing is the Maddox. So complete game shutout in under 9 innings, and then also 13 strikeouts to no walks. Which of the rank those by how impressive they are?
Um, I would say like I number one is definitely the Maddox under 100 pitches.
Okay.
I because when I saw the stats and everything come up, I was like, I obviously I was super impressed. But then when
Mhm.
I heard that it was under 100 pitches, that kind of just like shocked me. I didn't really think that was like 13 strikeouts and 94 pitches. Like I that just to me that is like he's throwing his stuff and he doesn't care what like he
Yeah.
doesn't care who the batter is, doesn't care what they're like who they are. Like he's gonna throw it and it's gonna work. Like to me that's what that means. And I think that was definitely the most impressive when I heard that. I would say next is the no walks.
Okay.
Again, that kind of just speaks into like the control, like knowing, being so in touch with like what you have and like
Mhm.
what's working and knowing where to put it. Like again, I just think that speaks to like how how dominant he is right now. And just because I put the 103 last doesn't mean I'm not impressed with that. I would just say that's more of like I'm not surprised that Scooble did that. Like
Yeah.
just gassed out 103 to end it. Like
Mhm.
I just feel like that's Scooble for you. All three though. I mean,
Yeah.
that stuff that makes your eyes pop when you read that on Instagram.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in terms of what I think will happen, everybody's like, and even bet MGM has a plus 100 odds, which is pretty crazy
Yeah.
figuring out how early we are in the season. I'm not trying to be a hater at all because he's amazing, but I do think it's gonna be closer than people think.
Hmm.
And Hunter Brown, Max Fried too. I don't know how
Yeah.
I'm getting him. Evaldi, like you can keep going down the list. Bubic has been amazing. Like there's gonna be a lot of guys that are gonna be pitching to a low twos ERA, maybe even high ones. That it's gonna be hard to like make a case against all these guys. So I will flip to Scooble because he's playing absurd, and I think this is the most sustainable out of all the guys. But everybody else needs to get their flowers too, because all these guys are putting their pitching staffs on their back right now.
Yeah, I just want to talk about Freed. I mean, this is like when you think of a Cy Young season, you look at Max Fried stats through
Yeah.
7 innings so far, 7-0, 1.29 ERA. Then let's see, 306 ERA plus, 258 FIP, WHIP below one. Strikeouts per nine is eight, walks per nine is two. I mean,
Mhm.
you could look at every metric you want to. Max Fried has probably been, I it's so like I don't is he the best pitcher right now? Maybe. Just like in terms of the
I
whole
don't think you can
season.
argue against the 129 ERA is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I just and I don't know what like what's clicked for him or what like is this stretch gonna last? But like it is weird seeing him on these odds and like hanging right around with Crochet and Brown and not to
Mhm.
like disrespect those guys, but I would have thought Freed would be right up there with Scooble if not higher to win one, especially because Freed hasn't won a Cy Young yet. And I feel like just from like history, sometimes the voters might pick the worst candidate if they haven't won an award yet over a guy that's already won it, especially if it's gonna be back to back. I feel like that might be a little bit of a I forgot the name of it, but it's kind of a bias where like just like this subconscious bias you have where
Mhm.
you picked Scooble last year and now you have Freed who's finished second before and now you're kind of like, wow, look at the season this guy's had. Scuba won it last year. Let's give it to Fried. Like kind of like stuff like that.
Mhm.
I think Fried is a really good like if you were gonna bet on it, I think I would totally take Fried. I think it's plus 450 right now. And yeah, it's been so awesome for him to do that, especially, like we've said, I think we've said already with Cole going down and him stepping into that ace role. Really awesome to see
Yeah.
Fried, kind of certify himself as like an ace now for sure.
Yeah,
So
the Yankees are 10-1 in his starts this year. 7-0 record, but 10-1 in his
yeah,
starts. The only loss came to a 5 inning, one earned run, four hits he's given up to the Mariners where they lost 2-1 that game. Um, so like he shouldn't even have any losses to this point,
yeah,
but that's massive, especially with that injury to Garrett Cole. So definitely some very impressive stuff there. Now I guess we didn't talk much about NL Cy Young.
yeah. Let's
So
get to the
would
NL.
you still run with Skeens? I do have a question before you answer that. So last year Skeens was 11-3, which propelled him into the Cy Young to be a finalist. He obviously won the Rookie of the Year. This year, he's on pace to go 9-15. I know that might be kind of exaggerating what will actually happen, but he's like most likely gonna have a 500 win-loss record to like a below 500. And I know wins and losses don't matter that much, and they shouldn't matter really at all because the pitcher doesn't decide how much runs you score. However, if he goes 9-15 this year and his numbers are the best, but not like by far the best, do you think he still even wins the Cy Young? Like, does that hurt too much?
If I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I was
If
looking
he goes
at his
nine and
stats.
15, which is what he's
Okay.
on track this year, roughly record, do you think he like still wins the Cy Young if he's the best pitcher, or what do you think's gonna happen?
That's a good question. I guess it depends on how much the writers weigh in on records still and
Yeah.
like how much they value that. I feel like if it were me and like I guess if I were to guess, if it was like 9-15 like you said, but like it's clear that he has the best numbers out of any pitcher, I think it still would be him. I feel like record just isn't the same value as it was back in the day, even if there's still a couple voters that might hold on to that. I think they're gonna understand like who like Pittsburgh as a team this year and how like just not good they've been in
Mhm.
general. Especially I think especially in scheme starts they've just been like historically bad. I think like if it's fresh in my mind, but his start against the Phillies, he went 8 innings, and I don't think Pittsburgh scored a run for him, or maybe it was one.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but like, yeah, I feel like with like all these kind of other things involved, I think it would still go to Skeens for sure. And like he's built up a repertoire to be known to have some of the best stuff in baseball, and I think that would also play into it. So I think it would still be Skeens. Do you think, I guess, because remind me, who was your prediction for the NL?
Corbin Burns.
Okay, so I you can talk about that a little bit too if you
Yeah.
want, but the front two right now are Skeens and Yamamoto. Zach Wheeler, also, I don't want to forget about him.
hmm
But I guess between like those three, is there any guy you're leaning more towards? Because I could see a case for any one of them really. But like,
I
do you lean
I'm
towards any one of
pretty
them?
kind of set. Corbin Burns has 20 less innings than like all these other guys. He has 50 innings compared to 70 with these other names that you're talking about. But I'm leaning towards Wheeler right now. I think Wheeler, this stretch that he's been on has been like absurd. He had a, let's see, 7 plus 12, 19. It was like 22 or something, 23 innings of just no runs. He's given up three hits or less in each of his last three starts.
Hmm.
He's done it like in the playoffs. He's amazing. I know the playoffs don't matter, but 2.42 this year with a 2.7 WAR, lowest whip in the league at 0.877, 11.2 Ks per nine with only 1.8 walks per nine. I think it'll be him on this great Phillies team. Yamamoto scares me a little bit just because he hasn't been in the league that much, but I mean I don't want to fault him for that because that's not his fault. But I think this is Wheeler's, especially on that team and the value that he brings to that team. And if Skeens goes 9-15 and barely has better stats, otherwise, I think even if I was a writer, it'd be hard for me to overlook how much more value. It's hard to like put it into words. Like
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I
it'd
totally
be hard for me to go with Skeens over Wheeler with that drastic different of records. And
Yeah.
yeah, hard for me to talk about that, but
I understand what you're saying. And like, I just saw Wheeler's whip is below point 0.9. I don't think I've ever seen that. And it's 70 innings, so that could change. But like right now, holy, that's like crazy. And like you said, like 3 hits or less last 3 outings, no runs either, like that streak
Mhm.
you were talking about. And Wheeler's another guy that's come up short in the Cy Young race a couple times now too. So he finished 12th in 2020, second in 21, sixth in 23, and then second again
Yeah.
last year. So I think he might be another contender where if he keeps doing what he's doing, it would be really hard for them not to give it to him. Now,
Yeah.
that being said, Yamamoto and Skeens haven't won it either, but for what Wheeler's done his whole career, I think they might give it to him. So I really like that prediction, and that might be like if you were purely just saying who you think's going to win it, I think
Mhm.
Wheeler's a good bet right now. And you can also count on the dependability with him, where Skeens and Yamamoto are still very fresh to being these perennial kind of Cy Young candidates and being like the superstars. Do you have anything else on the awards?
I do not. If you want to get started with our next segment.
All right, yeah. So this was kind of an idea I had where we're gonna play. I guess we're gonna play a little bit of GM here, or I guess Parker is mostly because I'm gonna be asking him about some
Mhm.
teams. But it's pretty much where do they go from here? And I'm just talking about some teams that are in super interesting spots as a team. And there's a lot of factors I would go into it, whether like players you're have a contract with that are with your team for a little bit longer, maybe a little bit longer than you would like. Teams that I've gotten off to a really bad start record wise, and you're kind of trying to decide, what do you do from here? Do you start selling some guys off and, trying to recoup for next year, or is it a full kind of tear down? So just teams like that kind of fit the bill of it's a tough spot to be in as a GM and kind of these little in between ones. So the first team I want to get started on, let's go to Anaheim and let's talk about the Angels. So the Angels, like we said, and this would be probably a really different conversation if we had it like 2 weeks ago. But they're starting to. The reason I put them here is because I think you could make a case that the Angels buy and sell here at the deadline, or just buy if they really wanted to. It would be tough because their farm system isn't like the strongest, but they might be able to if they wanted to. They're 25 and 27, well within contention in the AL West. So what would you do, Parker? If you're, I think his name's Perry something, the Angels GM.
Terminacio, I think.
Yeah. If you were the new GM, what changes are you making?
I First of all, I don't think they're contenders, and I feel like their front office, whether it's subconsciously or they're out front with it, I they probably feel the same way. But this team is looking a lot. I know it's easy to say after their long win streak, but I'm feeling a lot better, especially on the offensive side. They're the core they've kept or that they've built with Ohapi, Neto, Shanuel, even Soriano on the pitching side. Like I like that a lot, and those guys will be around for a while. However, I do think of this offseason, you need not offseason, trade deadline. You have to build and get these young pitching prospects because I'll ask you, and the answer is probably going to be you don't know because I don't know. When was the last time they had a young pitching prospect, other than Ben Joyce, like a good starting pitching prospect that you can look forward to, like showing up to the majors? If the
Well,
answer is none, then that's what I'm looking for. But if you have
yeah,
any,
the one that popped in my head was Reed Detmers, but like that didn't turn out well. So I
yeah,
don't really know if that counts for what this activity is.
yeah. I
Like,
mean, yeah,
was Jared Weaver a homegrown Anaheim Angels
I don't
guy?
know.
I don't
That's
know.
too long ago, but I think he started with their system, so that might be the answer in terms of guys that actually had success. But yeah, Reed Detmers. If you're just looking at like prospect pedigree, he's probably the last one. So
I would say Caden Dana too. He got up last year. He's one, but his ceiling is not ace. Like not like yeah. I wouldn't count him really
yeah.
either.
So that's the thing. I think they need to load up, not even load up, but just get like two or three of these guys. Like the White Sox have these like top tier pitching prospects that you're just waiting on. And if this offense develops for them, like it's exciting. And this is what this Angels pitching staff needs in the minor leagues. So I say trade these guys that are on expiring contracts. You have to trade Taylor Ward, I think, 100%.
Yeah.
Moncada's been a very pleasant surprise. I think you can extend him. He's only 30 years old. He's been when he's healthy, he's been a good hitter. Like I think sometimes people, and I do the same thing, they clump him with the Tim Anderson like fall off.
Hmm.
No, he's really just been hurt. Like his numbers have always been good when he's out there. I don't know what his numbers exactly are this year, but I think it's at least 800 OPS and like a 120 OPS plus, something
Yeah.
around that. So I think you either trade him away and cash in on that, or you extend him. I think an extension would be great. But you do want those pitching prospects, so maybe trading's the better route. And then Renhefo, he's going to be heading to free agency very soon. So I don't know how I feel about him because last year he was good. This year he's got like a negative
Horrible.
1.4. He's been horrible. So is this like a Lubob type of thing where it's like this is like the lowest point, so why like get rid of him? Um, like you're not really going to get that much back. So I'm not sure like what to do with him. Um, but like mainly with Ward and Moncada, like you have to do something with those guys. You have to load up. Ward could get you one like nice top 100 pitching prospect, I think. Um, yeah, I think that's the next moves with that team. Do you have anything to add with that?
Yeah, they definitely missed their window on Renhefo. They should have traded him last year at the deadline when they were well out of it. He was batting above 300, I think, most of the year, finished with a 763 OPS. Now he's a dead weight. He's been negative hitting and defensive. Like I think you said, negative 1.3 WAR. I don't think I've seen one that low yet. Just look going through stats. So.
Hmm.
I mean, nobody's going to want to trade for him. I mean, you're not, I don't think really you're going to get anything out of him now, which is brutal. Um, I agree with what you said, keeping the core, Hoppy, Neto, Shonawall. There's some good pieces there. Taylor Wood was probably another guy they should have traded last year. They have another chance to do it. I could understand them holding on to Taylor Ward. I wouldn't hate that too much because he's been with the team for a while now.
Yeah.
If I was the GM, I would move off Trout and like the Angels team, I think is, and I'm not saying like identity wise or like the specific players, but it, they've moved on from Trout. Like they can be productive and be a good offense without Mike Trout. And the biggest evidence of that is in the last, 10-game win streak they just had.
Mhm.
That was without Mike Trout. Like the pieces here, there's a new core in, and I think it's time that you get rid of Trout and
Yeah.
still get what you can for him. And I think getting rid of Trout is a good balance where you don't give up. Like obviously they're not going to trade any of their core pieces, but
Yeah.
you still have that core, and then whatever you can get from Trout, you add to that core in the next couple of years, and you can
Mhm.
keep building around that. So I think like, and if you add in like a Taylor Ward to that trade too, that's more
Yeah.
guys you can get. And anybody else, I think you can still be competitive, but still offload a lot of your top pieces and start to really think about the future with Ohapi, Neto,
Mhm.
Shonawell. And I think if they play this right, they really could have a really solid team here in a couple of years. But then again, I think they're going to just revert back to being contenders, like you said, that some Koch is kind of like,
Yeah.
we're in it and we're going to be fighting this whole
Yeah.
year. But I like if I think there's really good potential here to really think about the future and build towards that by getting rid of Trout. And I think that's kind of the main guy that they need to start to move off of.
Yeah.
And
That's
especially,
bold, but I think I like that.
yeah, and there's going to be buyers for sure. Like, who wouldn't
Yeah.
want, like, I mean,
Dude,
you
and
could
we
list off
sound like
teams.
you could totally reload that pitching farm system with
Yes, absolutely.
totally reload it.
And you can actually get excited about being an Angels fan and like
Mhm.
buying into this team instead of just this purgatory of 70, 80 win seasons that don't get you really anywhere. So,
And I think before the problem was like, at least with the front office, if you trade Trout away, like the backlash from the fans, like you were talking about with this core that's come up and this hot streak and all like
yeah,
these good pieces, I think the fan base won't even be that mad. If anything, they'd be more like optimistic towards the future if they moved away from Trout. I think they're just frustrated with the injuries and they're just tired of kind of hoping for him to come back and be the same. I think they would like it honestly, and if I was an Angels fan, I'd feel the same way.
right.
Um, yeah, and then real quick, Rendon, if you can get anything, you're gonna have to pay most of the salary, but like
Yeah.
if you could get anything back from him, you're not going to probably, but like maybe get rid of that, just like a bad locker room guy. From what I've seen, like all the comments and stuff, but again, I don't know, I'm not in their clubhouse, but Kenley Jansen also hasn't been
Mm.
great this year, but you could still get something from him. He's been great in the past. He'll be a free agent after this year, so you could definitely just pick up a little bit with him. Um, yeah. Should I move on to the next team?
Yeah, I'll lead you into it and kind
Okay.
of give a little blanket coverage for you.
Mhm.
But so next team is the Blue Jays. This was a team we talked a lot about in the off season, and that was because of the free agent list over the next two or so years. And at the time, this was for the extended Vladdy too, which, now in present time, it looks a little different for them. But yeah, the Blue Jays obviously kind of off to like a start, I guess we would have expected, hovering around 500. Haven't really been, above it, below it too much, kind of that middling team in the AL East, like we already said. A really interesting situation where they locked down Vladdy, but now you have, Bo Bichette's probably the next big star you're going to think of, and a ton of other free agents to think about with the future. So let's hear what you're going to do with the Blue Jays.
This is so interesting to me because I know I was so adamant when we were doing all these videos towards the start of the season that they should like sell everything off, get rid of everything. Like I think I even said like trade Vladdy away. This is before they signed the extension, but my stance is starting to change a little bit. I'll just go through some things real quick. So Bassett, Scherzer, Bichette, Chad Green, Turnbull, and Jose Urena are going to be free agents after this year. And then you have after next year, so I guess a year and two-thirds left of Gosman, Springer, and Garcia, the pitcher, relief pitcher. And then now you look at like the opposite of that. Jimenez, Barrios, Kirk, they just signed that extension. Santander, we know that big contract he signed. And then Vladdy obviously just got the extension, are locked down for multiple years. Vladdy was kind of that breaking point for me to change my stance. They love spending money. The AL is extremely weak right now. There's a lot of middle of the pack teams. I still like think if they made moves, they could overtake the Yankees if everything goes perfect. I think they kind of go all in. I know this is like a total different stance that I had earlier, but with this Vladdy extension and with all these guys that you're spending money on, you don't have time to waste rebuilding. Like you can't take these next 4 years and rebuild when you have Jimenez, Kirk, Santander, like all these guys that are just like killing your books with money. I
Yeah,
don't know how much money they'd have to spend, but they seem to love spending money. So like upgrades at third base, second base, like replacing Clement, Nathan Lukes, I think it is. Like their left field, they need a replacement. They need a starting pitcher that's solid, maybe like a couple bullpen arms. But dude, I this is a very tough spot as GM, but I think you kind of have to go for it, honestly. What's your stance on this?
Um, I think you might be right where they kind of knocked themselves into this corner where they like have to go for it, like.
Yeah.
Because like, what do you like? What are you gonna get like out of trading some of these guys? Probably not much, really. And then like you said, you're locked into like a bunch of big contracts with Jimenez and Santander, Vladdy now, and Kirk. Kirk got the
Yeah.
extension this offseason. I think you're right, where like it is kind of a spot where they don't have an option. And I also wanted to ask with Bo Bichette, are you extending him? Are you signing him? Or are you letting him walk after this year?
Well, if you extend them, that makes it even harder
Yeah, right.
at this trade deadline to go and get guys that you're going to spend more money on. This is so tough. I mean, if you can keep him around, I would definitely say keep him around because it's kind of a buy low. I don't know.
Yeah, true.
I'm guessing it'd be very hard to negotiate between his agents who think he has this high value from like a couple years ago to the
Mm,
Blue Jays who saw a horrendous year last year, below 600 OPS, and this year he's been still even like not nearly as good as he has been in the past. He's got like a 275 average with a 102 OPS plus. So he's still like in comparison with those hot years where he was all-star, he's still having a down year. So I think that'll be almost impossible to make happen. Um, and yeah, I think you just keep him this year and go for it at the deadline and then just say farewell in the offseason and then maybe reload in other ways. But this
yeah.
is a very tough situation for their front office right now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we said if I remember during the offseason, they need to be one way or the other. I think I said that or something where
Yeah.
either go all
Don't be in the
in.
middle.
Yeah, right. Being in the middle is probably the worst thing you can do, I feel like, as any franchise. And a lot of these teams we're talking about, like the Angels, it's kind of the same spot. They're in the middle right now. Yeah, I think, and I think you make a good call there by going all in because I think you're right about having the pieces there.
Yep.
And like, yeah, I think I would agree with you on kind of everything that you said. And then you kind of figure it out after these couple of years here, but you have locked down a couple of pretty solid options for the next couple of years.
Mhm.
Um, and then you can kind of go from there after this season. But again, like we've said, just stop sitting in the middle because that's not helping anybody out. So, do you have anything else on the Blue Jays?
I do not. We can go to the next team.
All right, so our final team then is going to be the Baltimore Orioles. We've already talked a lot about this, just the year it's been for the Orioles. Really unfortunate, really bad, really anything you want to say. We all know about that. And they've been getting a lot of flack recently from media, from social media about, well, for Mike Elias specifically, with this being the window with all the young talent coming up. And just he's been getting a lot of hate for how he's handled it and how, the spot that they're in right now. And could you blame it all on Michael Elias? Probably not. But you could also point to a lot of different things that he's done, a lot of players that he's guided that don't help the situation right
Mhm.
now. So, my question to you, or like with the other two teams, is, as the Orioles, I think it's 17 and 34 right now, 14 games back at the AL East. You just fired your manager, former manager of the year, 101 wins. Where do you go from here for the rest of the season, looking on into next season? Yeah, what are you doing?
This is so tough, dude, and such a sad exercise that we've even gotten to this point, you know? But
Yeah.
that's just the reality of it. This, I still love this offense, and I'm sure you would agree with that. This offense, I know they're underperforming right now. I know they're not doing great. I love this offense. This season has to be punted though. Like they're such at the bottom of the league that like there's no hope for this season. If you asked me that like 2 weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have said that, but now I think it's kind of the playoffs is even like out of reach. So
Mhm.
keep all your offensive pieces that are young, you have control of. I think that's pretty clear. The two guys that I look at on the offense that you could move away from to get that pitching help, because this has always been the problem. They need the pitching so badly on starting pitching, especially. But Cedric Mullins and Ryan Mountcastle, those guys both have, well, let me see. Actually, did they extend Mount? Okay, so Mountcastle has 2 more years left until he's a free agent. So he's still on that kind of rookie 6 years. So you have this year and next year for him. So probably keep him, honestly, a nice platoon bat. Um, Cedric Mullins, that's so tough. Like
Mhm.
Mullins he's got this year, last year of that, like I said, that 6 years of rookie contract, and then he'll be a free agent next year. I
Okay.
think you could cash in on him um for starting pitchers. Honestly, I love everything else that's going on here, but like I know Mullins has been here the longest, and you kind of there's some loyalty there with him. But I think you have to move away from him. And then on the pitching side, dude, this is just so tough. Like just move away from the starting pitchers that aren't doing anything. Because this year, like I said, punt it. Zach Eflin, you got this year, and then he's a free agent.
Very true.
Sugano, like you signed him to a 1 year contract. So after this year, or even like this trade deadline, I still think like get rid of him. He's been doing good. Cash in on that. Or if you can extend him, that'd be perfect. Honestly, an extension. But then you look at his age and he's like 36 years old almost. So it's
Right.
like, I don't know. This is so tough. Ryan O'Hearn also this year and then he's done. You can get something back from him, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I think you just punt, get rid of the guys that you have 1 year left to control. The guy with 2 years left to control, like Mountcastle, I think you keep him because next year I think they can go back to being a great team. But it all just depends on can they reload their pitching staff, and they've proven that they cannot do that in these past 2, 3 years when
Yeah.
they've had this wide open window with all these guys. And I know there's guys on the offense have to step up. We've harped on Adley enough. Um, but like those guys next year, I think kind of a reset. If you go in with a lot better pitching, I think they'll have a lot more confidence, and that'll show up on the offensive side too. But this is almost impossible to really simulate, honestly.
Yeah, I think Ryan O'Hearn is definitely a trade candidate right now. He's the best hitter on their team. He could fit in really anywhere, I feel like. And like you said, only 1 year left of control. Although I think it might be, I think it's a club option. So I want to look and
I did
see.
not know that. Let's see.
Um,
This is for O'Hearn you're talking about?
yeah, there's a 2025 club option, which would be, I
Well,
guess,
that's this year though.
right. So then if he got traded, would the team he's on be able to take that club option?
So are you saying the club options after this year, or it was for this year?
Oh no, it's for this year. So okay, yeah. So they took the
They
club
took it
option
this
this year.
year, and
Yeah. Okay.
then yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
never mind. So yes, I think you dump O'Hearn, especially I don't know how sustainable that 956 OPS is going to be, but
Hmm.
get him while his value is super high. I think that's a good call. Like you said, if we're going to be punting, just dump who you can. I think
Yeah.
Cedric could be in, like you said, in that category too. And then yeah, I didn't know Eflin was a free agent next year. That's brutal. And
Yeah.
like I mean, not that you really are going to want to keep him, but like Moore and Sugano are going to be gone.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, because there's still a lot to buy into with this team, I think. And like, if you want to just project a rotation next year, you could go on the injured list and say, okay, Grayson's going to be the one. Maybe you have
Yeah.
Bradish at the two. I don't know, Povich three, I guess, or Kremer three,
The two
Povich
Povich
four.
three, like you
Yeah.
need so much more than that.
Right. And yeah, so then you become like, okay, and like looking at free agency, but like you said, that's not something that they really like to do all too much. But I think it's not a total lost cause looking at next year, and like you're not gonna lose any of your big pieces, right? Um,
Yeah.
it's really just gonna be about like showing that you actually want this team to win for Mike Elias and
Yeah.
putting the money where your mouth is about like all of this stuff. Um, and yeah, I mean the biggest spending is definitely gonna have to be on the pitching, but like do you go after like a big ticket like pitcher? I don't know many of the free agent pitchers that are going to be free agents in this upcoming offseason, but is it going to be a case where they give a bigger contract out to like an ace or like a number two? Or I don't think they can do what they did again this year where they just give small $15 million contracts out to
Yeah.
like threes and fours and fives. Like that
Right.
doesn't
Like
work, obviously.
Morton,
So,
like we see how that's working out. Like
right.
you
Like
can't just settle.
right. And I think maybe you get another really good arm to add to Grayson Rodriguez and then maybe sign another like four or five and just hope you stay
Yeah.
healthy because there's pieces here for sure. Like if you can have Bradish and Rodriguez healthy for the full season, like that is already a huge step in the right direction.
I
So
got one that comes to mind. If those guys come back healthy, this might even do it on the starting pitching side if you get this guy. But Freddie Peralta will be a free agent.
oh
Probably the best two you could get.
yeah,
I'd say Ace. He's like borderline. I know he's playing amazing right now, but to get the best two potentially in the league, and he would slot in as probably the one over Grayson. We'll see how Grayson does, but
yeah,
a guy like that, like the Corbin Burns, getting him was huge, and we saw how that paid off. I know they didn't do good in the playoffs, but still had a great year last year. But if they can kind of replicate that with Freddie Peralta, that's what they need. They need that so badly. And I have no doubt this offense will be like top five in the league next year with everybody healthy.
right.
Westbrook, Hauser, all those guys back. So
Yeah. And then you even have Samuel Basallo probably being up next year at some
yeah.
point, maybe even this year if things keep
Mhm.
going like they are. And he could contribute, I think, right away. I think he's mashing in AAA right now.
Yeah.
And then Kobe Mayo too. He's a guy that has been in
Hmm.
AAA for a long time, and you want to find room for him. Move some guys around, you could probably find room for him as well. So yeah, definitely not all lost with Baltimore, but I think I agree with you with like, punting this year and start
Yeah.
thinking about 2026. Do you have anything else for the people on our 30th episode?
Do we have like some like celebration or something?
I wish I had a
Planning.
cake. Maybe Could we get real quick or something, or just write 30 on it? I don't know. 30's, I mean, it's an even number, so it looks
Yeah,
pretty.
maybe you can throw like a little emoji or something
Okay.
on the Instagram story. I don't know.
I'll think of something. But either way, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Glad we could get one out here on Memorial Day weekend. I hope you enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend as well. Lots of good barbecue, hopefully. If you want to keep up with us and get some more Loose and Groovy Baseball content, Loose and Groovy Baseball Show on all social media. Those will be linked down below as well. Be on the lookout for a new episode next week. Enjoy this week. Enjoy some more baseball. Signing off for me and Parker. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.